according to Adam Schefter, Browns going to be buyers, or they're going to be looking for young quality talent here. That they don't intend to move on from David Njoku. They don't tend to move on from really anybody else. They're going right on ahead, and they want to make sure that they go out and they get some young guys. Is this a prudent move? Do you trust not Stefanski? Do you trust Barry to do this?
No, I mean, I think he can still make good deals, even though I don't think he's been a great GM. And I think evidence of that is the type of deal that he just swung. He just swung the Newsome trade, and that's the type of deal that I think makes a lot more sense. No, I don't think we should be depleting future assets to go get, to go make a big splash and get a big-time wide receiver, because that would be irresponsible.
Right.
Like, that makes no sense, the state of affairs where they're at, and they're in a rebuild now. So we all understand that, right? Like, as long as we all understand where the team is.
Wait a minute. Like, if they got, if they got Garrett Wilson, I'm just going to throw a big name out there that people have talked about. If they win, they got Garrett Wilson. You wouldn't be excited?
I'm not trading. It depends how they get him. Like, I'm not giving up, our own first round pick or anything like that. Like, that to me would be irresponsible.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't make, even though I think Garrett Wilson is really good, I just think you have to start aligning things. I think one of the problems with this year's team is there's nothing aligned. Like you have these older offensive linemen, and then you brought in Joe Flacco, but Myles Garrett's in his prime, but now we're going to bring in and start rookies. Like, there's too many different timelines going on. That makes no sense.
Okay, so what do you think we ought to be doing then? Because we need to get each other on record then on what our plan is. How do you want to go about this? I'm not even talking about trade deadline, everything here. Because they did, and they went and they made the trade with Greg Newsome and Tyson Campbell. Seemed to be a fine enough move. Tyson Campbell so far. Now, we do have a couple of Campbell truthers in the media who say, you guys just wait. It's eventually going to go bad. I go, okay, well, I've only had him for 2 games, and so far it's gone pretty well for him. So we got that with Tyson Campbell. I'm not sure what other moves are out there, because I'm not Spotrac. I'm not paying attention to every single contract. I gotta look at all these guys. But if there is something to do it, like, he's got to be very, very, very careful. I think there's a large group of people. I think there's probably a strong majority of people who don't want him making any moves. They got the picks that they have for next year, and they just want somebody else to execute those picks. All right, but I got to look at it with what he is right now, that he is the general manager, and he's the general manager until they say otherwise, because everything they've said is that everybody's hunky-dory and everybody's aligned and ready and lockstep and everybody's on good terms.
Yeah, they need to figure out, and it's tough to do, as you've pointed out time and time again, like, offensive linemen aren't just available if they're good, but you were able to swing a Wyatt Teller trade, back in the day. John Dorsey
and they didn't
was able
think
to do
he
that.
Was good in Buffalo.
Right,
that's
right.
part of it.
So they need to take some swings in that regard. That makes sense, and that's not going to deplete your first or second round. You're not trading necessarily top 100 picks for something like that. But I would expect them, because, man, looking at their offensive line situation next year, we keep seeing that it could be 5 new guys. And that doesn't make any sense if you're drafting a quarterback, in the first round. That makes life really hard. You're almost walking into a terrible situation if you're a brand new quarterback of the Browns, and that's the case. So you got to be mindful of that.
So, like, as of everything, has anything changed for you? Is it still, hey, let's get to the end of this season? Like, Miles is off the board. Let's just say Miles is off the board according to what they wrote last week, and we talked about it. He's off the board. You got your first-round picks next year. Are you taking a quarterback, taking an offensive lineman or a wide receiver, taking and moving on and still staying young, not trading away any of these guys? Or would you think, you know what, it's time for David Njoku to go, give me a pick? Is it time for maybe somebody on the offensive line to go? I don't know what you do with Wyatt Teller, because, again, you're going to need someone there. So are you moving on from that, or are you keeping him around and seeing if you can do it's a bad example, but the Jack Conklin deal, it's like, well, you're going to try to find somebody to be as good as him, to be your right tackle. You might as well just have him, because that's the going rate for free agents. So it could end up being that way for Wyatt Teller, because I don't think Zach Zenter's playable at any moment. And you have Luke Whippler, who's able to move around a little bit, but you really want him to be the center.
And the hard part is, how old is Wyatt now? Like, he's still functional. He's just not as good as he was, 3 years ago when he was just an ass kicker all over the place.
I think he's still pretty good, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make it sound like he's washed up or anything like that. That's why I'm saying they probably got to sign him. They got to sign him, but you got to understand too, when you sign guys at his situation at this stage of his career, the expect he's 30 now, so you're not going to get the best years of Wyatt Teller. That's the hard part of it.
And I think it's a weird thing because I think that people just want some clarity right now. And what has made the situation tougher is that it's almost like they're trying to do so many things at once and they're not good at all of it. You're trying to still be competitive in this season. Okay, well, we know they're not going to be. All right, so what are you going to do if you're not going to be competitive? You start trading guys that can get you value for the future. Okay, well, they're not doing that. What are you going to do at the quarterback position? Well, nobody's throwing with every single one of these quarterbacks out there. It's going to be a big conversation. What do you do with the guy who's backing up the current starter? I mean, that's a big conversation as well. I think there's confusion and a lot of rhetoric about each one of those things, and I think it's just let them go, man, we're chewing a lot of fat and having a lot of different conversations about the same team that goes to the same place every year. They go to the basement every single year. And why are we doing this? So I think that leads, like when I go back to 2016 and 17, the real dark times, yeah, there were people who were definitely out of it, but there were people who could get behind it because they felt that was the best way to do it. Right now, you're not doing something that has a clear plan at the end of it. And it's brought some criticism. Charles Robinson brought up that people are criticizing him before. You've had, Nate Tice, I think you posted that audio last week or something where they're going, what are you doing with this roster here? What's this roster management? You're either growing or you're dying. What are you necessarily trying to do to fix this problem or to make this situation better in the future? I think there's so many mixed signals right now of what they're going to do. And obviously he didn't talk last week. He probably ain't going to talk this week, so we ain't going to get any answers until it's all said and done. What the hell do you do? And so I ask for a lot of fans, do you agree with this? Or are there people who are just ready to rip the Band-Aid off and say, David's been a fine player, goodbye. Wyatt's been a fine player, goodbye, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 95 is a totally different argument. That's a totally different animal and a totally different conversation. But the other two guys, and maybe even like Shelby Harris, Jerome Ford, I think a lot of those people would trade them without batting an eye.
Yeah, and the Njoku one is tough because he's got a significant cap hit next year, but do we care about next year's cap hit if the team's just not going to be that good?
I don't know if they do. I don't know if
it's like $21 million.
21 million is different than 73 or whatever the hell it is for Miles.
And the other part of the Njoku issue is he's not as explosive. I think we all can see that. I don't know what happened. Like, how did that happen overnight?
Well, he's clearly not playing banged up now.
He's not old.
I mean, the knee injury, everything, he's clearly playing banged up. But he's been banged up at parts of his entire career. I think that David has always been on the fringe for a lot of fans. And I think for a lot of people watching him, there's definitely a possibility where he could be one of the better tight ends in the league. But it's always been on the fringe and something's either got in the way. I look at the quarterback, who can be really good with the quarterbacks?
That's it. It's tough.
When you had veterans who are guys who go to their tight ends first, a guy like Jacoby Brissett, you have a chance to look a little bit better. When your quarterback situation is not good, when your health situation isn't that good, when your offense, even you got guys who struggle to see you, that's all going to lead to some negative things. I think with David, he's been dealing with it his entire career. And I think people look at Harold Fannin Jr. and think, well, that's the future. We can just get rid of this guy. I don't know if they necessarily want to see it that way. And especially when you're talking about the cap hit going into next year, it makes it so much more difficult because I think they're chasing something that I don't know if they can really attain. And that is, dare I say, that Commanders situation last year. Now it's led to something hellish this year for him. He should not have been out there last night like that. I can't believe he was still out there down 31 when he's had 2 injuries already this year. For the love of God. Talking about Jaden Daniels. Yeah. If you guys just tuned in, he got hurt. He hyperextended the elbow. I think he dislocated his left elbow yesterday. And that looks like that's going to be a pretty significant injury. And he shouldn't have been out there when they were down by 31 late in the football game anyway. But either way. You could try to go and chase that route if you want to, but man, you just don't have any trust within the fan base at all. So how do I sell the fan base at all on the idea? If you're the Browns, how do I sell the fan base at all on the idea of keeping guys around and making these moves? Because I think a lot of people will line up and go, yeah, maybe it was time to trade David. Yeah, it was maybe time to trade Wyatt. Yeah, it was maybe time to trade so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. But they're not the ones going to be executing the picks, right? He's not going to be the one actually making the choices, right? Well, his draft last year was good. Okay, but what about the previous 5? All that is there for the fans, and I think a lot of folks are just sitting there, and that's why we had the argument we had at the beginning of the show. I think they agree with you, and they go, I'm just going to watch something else here until you get me something that is going to be exciting to me. They'll watch exciting football, which is even bad football. They'll watch good football, which isn't even not exciting football. They're just going to watch other football. Because according to a lot of people agreed with you in the opening segment. And so I don't know how you get this across to the fans. I don't think you can until you move on from certain people.
But you asked at the beginning, what I absolutely do not want them doing is like an all-in trading, future draft picks desperation mode, to make up for all the bad wide receiver deals or, the trades or the draft picks that they have attempted.
You certainly don't want